Most people think freedom means having more choices, more money, more mobility, more options, more permission. But a nervous system shaped by fear will recreate its prison no matter how many doors are opened. I do not think most human beings have ever experienced true freedom, only different versions of managed dependency. And I think, deep down, many people are beginning to feel that now. Not just politically, not just economically, existentially. There is a growing exhaustion moving through humanity that cannot be explained by work schedules alone. People are tired in ways sleep does not fix, tired of noise, tired of performance, tired of carrying identities that no longer feel real, tired of trying to locate themselves inside systems that constantly pull their attention outward. Because modern life does not simply demand labor anymore. It demands consciousness itself. Attention, reaction, participation, emotional energy, identity, fear, outrage, comparison, endless stimulation. Human beings are being shaped continuously by forces most barely recognize while they are happening. Media cycles shape emotional atmosphere. Algorithms shape perception. Advertising shapes desire. Social systems shape behavior. Fear shapes compliance. Even spirituality is increasingly packaged into consumable identity rather than lived transformation. And beneath all of it sits a deeper question many people are only now beginning to confront. What thoughts are actually mine? What fears are mine? What desires are mine? What beliefs did I inherit without ever examining them? What parts of me were shaped through survival rather than truth? That is the real threshold. Because the greatest systems of control are rarely maintained through force alone. They are maintained through internalization, through repetition, through nervous systems conditioned to normalize fragmentation. A fragmented human is easier to direct, easier to manipulate, easier to exhaust, easier to sell to, easier to divide. And many people are beginning to realize how fragmented they have become. Not broken, fragmented. Pulled in too many directions for too long. Disconnected from silence. Disconnected from the body. Disconnected from intuition. Disconnected from their own internal pacing. This is why freedom terrifies so many people once it becomes real. Because true freedom is not simply the removal of external control. It is the collapse of internal dependency on constant guidance, validation, stimulation, and permission. That kind of freedom changes a person. It requires discernment, self-responsibility, inner stability, the willingness to tolerate uncertainty without immediately surrendering perception to authority. And most systems are not designed to cultivate those qualities. They are designed to cultivate consumption and compliance. This is why so many people feel trapped even when they appear externally successful. They have mastered adaptation while losing connection to themselves in the process. The body feels this fracture long before the mind admits it. Anxiety, exhaustion, numbness, compulsive distraction, emotional volatility, the inability to rest without guilt, the inability to sit in silence without reaching for stimulation. These are not simply personal failures. They are symptoms of nervous systems living under constant occupation. And yet, something important is happening now. The spell is weakening. Not because the systems are disappearing. They are still powerful, still pervasive, still deeply embedded into modern life. But they are no longer invisible. People are beginning to recognize manipulation patterns in media, politics, advertising, spirituality, technology, and even interpersonal dynamics. The collective is slowly waking up to the realization that convenience and freedom are not always the same thing. That realization matters. Because once a structure becomes visible, it loses some of its total authority over perception. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for questions to begin. Enough for discernment to return. Enough for human beings to start reclaiming pieces of themselves that were handed away unconsciously. And perhaps that is where true freedom actually begins. Not in escaping all influence. That may be impossible while living inside human society. But in learning how to remain internally coherent while influence is happening. To know when fear is being amplified. To know when identity is being manipulated. To know when urgency is artificial. To know when the nervous system is being pushed into reaction instead of reflection. To know how to return to yourself again. Again and again and again. Because the system does not lose power all at once. It loses power each time a human being remembers how to belong to themselves again.